One of my favorite things to do as Paul Goodman, husband, dad, friend, brother, Dr. Paul Goodman, dental practice owner, multiple locations, Dr. Nacho, leader of a 27,000 member Facebook community as of September 2020, is to come to this place, Washington Square Park, to walk, to think, to listen to podcasts, to make videos just like this. George Washington is one of my favorite leaders because he really had a nacho ordinary idea. Imagine if he didn't think crossing the Delaware, where would we all be? What nacho ordinary ideas can we apply to our lives? How does leadership affect us in our dentisting lives, our personal lives, and our professional lives? I'm going to take you on this walk with me. Sometimes during the walk, there's wind, there's kids being kids, but you can still hear, you can still learn. Maybe it's more interesting than just staring at me for 5, 10, 15, or 20 minutes. Gary Vee is one of the people that I admire most. Helped me realize that life is about documenting, not producing. So maybe this isn't the perfect video. Maybe the sound isn't perfect, but the content is going to be great. And life is really about the content. So let's share some content together so we can all learn. We can all do a little bit better in our dentisting lives. We can make the people around us a little bit happier. We can make ourselves a little bit happier. I know we went to dental school and we think it's illegal for dentists to be fully happy. That may be the case. But maybe we can be just a little bit happier each day. Maybe we can figure out ways, systems. Everything that matters needs a system, and everything matters is one of my favorite sayings. So I have given many implant presentations, which I love to do. You can get access to some of my core chip content. But for this one, I wanted to do something nacho ordinary. I wanted to do something that maybe it's not Washington crossing the Delaware of CE, but maybe what if I made a video where I talk to you about every point a patient goes through in getting a single tooth posterior implant placed, restored, planned, maintained. How do we charge for it? What if I just talk that experience out? We don't learn from PowerPoints. We learn from, some of my speaker coaches have taught me, gluing things to people's minds. What can you use in the heat of dentisting battle? What will you remember? What tools will help you be a better, happier, more successful, more productive, more profitable, and most of all, patient-centered dentist? So in talking about the process of a single tooth implant, I want us to focus on that. And I want to focus on the single tooth posterior implant. Why do I want to focus on the single tooth posterior implant? Because out of every 100 implants that come through our dental office, most are the single tooth posterior implant. Why is this the case? Here are some of the reasons that I have found in doing implant dentistry over the past 18 years. Human beings are living longer. Were their teeth designed to last this long? People in their 70s have most of their teeth that are heavily restored. What I call a lot of full contact arts and crafts work. Post and cores, bigger post and cores, unique crowns that at the time were the best things we knew. So always champion and say, man, it is great that this lasted 20 or 30 years. 10 or 20 years, we eat 1,000 meals a year. That's 10,000 meals. Good job. But now it didn't fail. It's time for this tooth to retire. Time for us to replace it. How about we use patient-friendly language, patient-friendly terms, so we don't make people who are there to see us feel weird and bad. How do we do that? Well, if you're listening to this video, live or on recording, have you ever referred to a tooth as a virgin? You probably have. Is that comfortable for anyone? Have you been in a situation inside your office or outside your office where someone has said the word virgin and you said, man, I feel comfortable? So what can we do to make our patients feel more comfortable? Use patient-friendly language. Use patient-friendly terms. Instead of failure, say time to replace. Instead of hopeless prognosis about a number 18 that's been chewing on a patient named Millie for the past 47 years, say not a great chance of working out well. So let's dig into the nacho plate of how a patient comes into our office and gets an implant planned, placed, and restored. And the reason we're focusing on the single tooth posterior implant, are they the ones that are most common? Yes, I know. There's a number 7 on a 24-year-old female who had trauma and a high smile line. Maybe those are cases that are good to refer to someone who does that all the time. Maybe the best outcome in those cases is still challenging, but restoring a posterior implant so a person can chew, that is right up your dentisting alley. The more of those you do, the happier your patients will be, the happier your team will be, the happier you will be. So let's talk about a patient who comes into the office. How may they get into your dental practice? 2 ways. One is an existing patient. They may come in with a limited oral exam, PA visit that we call, emergency visit, and they may say, there's a little bubble that goes up and down on my gum. Is that normal? It doesn't hurt, because patients will do anything to get out of dental care. And I say, depending how well I know the patient, do any of your other teeth do that magic circus trick? Do they have bubbles that come up and down? So what that is that's a sign of your tooth saying the bottom part is cracked. The root part is cracked. So fractured teeth are a big part of the why, in why there's such an opportunity for all of us to do more dental implants, help more patients be more profitable in a patient-centered way. So that may be an existing patient that comes in. We also may have new patients that come into the practice. Marketing your practice is important. What are ways in which your practice is attracting patients? Through your website. One of our awesome sponsors, LocalMed, is a great way to get patients to schedule new patients, emergency, and cleaning visits. Also, make sure your website is up to date. It looks good, it functions good. Have a marketing specialist dig into that with you. If you need any help on any of these things as we listen to this presentation, just reach out to us at salsadelnachos.com, and we can connect you with our key resources and sponsors. Sponsors, for some reason, became some sort of bad word in the dental community when they're really called resources, because dental school doesn't teach us all the things we need to do to survive and thrive as business owners. And there's a lot of things. I've been a practice owner for 15 years. We have multiple practices with my brother. There's so many things I didn't even know existed, from IT to marketing to websites to accounting to bookkeeping to collecting money to review generation, just to name a few. So you want to look into resources and find out which ones fit for you. But dental school, I believe, should be bringing these resources into students to at least know that they exist. But that's probably not going to happen, because dental school's gonna dental school. Best way to describe it, dental school's gonna dental school. So as we start to talk about these patients that come in with a fractured bottom part of their tooth, I'll give you a talking tip. Fractured base part, not fractured root. There's a crack in the base part where your root is. What that means, it's like stepping on a piece of ice. We don't know when it's going to crack more, but we can't uncrack it. Now, some of you might be thinking, we can do a root canal and crown to fix it. Does that fix it or just hold it together longer? If you do dental treatment that's unpredictable, tell the patient, this is unpredictable. Here is how I say that. I say, hey, if we're sitting here 18 months from now, and the thing that we just did, root canal and crown, large filling, needs to retire and be replaced, will you be happy you got 18 months out of it? Or upset and wish you, not me, you the patient, chose something different? Because I present the menu, patient orders. I go over the menu, pros and cons, heads up, but the patient orders. when you present a menu, including the option of no treatment, like the awesome Dr. John Coyce talks about, you will connect with patients in a more people-centered way. You don't need to give your professional recommendation is this tooth should be saved like Private Primo or Ryan. That is the dramatic teaching we got us from dental school. Both root canals and crowns and implants work out very well, so we should just be happy about it, not fight about it. Dentists are the only people on earth that can fight about two things that work out well 90% of the time. Think about that. It's like fighting over tacos and nachos. Next time you go out to eat with someone and they order tacos and you get nachos, you say, I want to say this to them, tacos is a stupid choice. Studies show only 90% of people like tacos. They'll look at you like you're an insane person, because that is an insane thing to say. So what I share with patients is a heads up. What are some of the factors? What are 3 things that can happen to a tooth? Golden nacho tip. It can get a cavity, bone can shrink, or it could break. Cavity, bone shrink, breakage. These are risk factors that patients have, so you can review their risk factors. An NFL running back does not have the same wear and tear on his knee as that of me, a 43-year-old dad. So if an NFL running back needed his knee reconstructed, and Dr. Nacho did, we'd have very different wear and tear lifespans. So what are patients doing? Are they grinding? Do they have a high decay rate? Discuss these factors, but let the patient decide. Maybe a patient wants to maintain a tooth for 2 or 3 years, and that's the best decision for them. Make the best decision in the moment. Talk to patients like people, and magic will happen. So, patients will come into your office, new patients, existing patients, and we're talking about the most common thing, a fractured root. So, what's the process for us to start talking with the patient? Menu of treatment options for a fractured root. No treatment. If they leave the fractured base part in, the gum bubble, they can get pain, swelling, infection, loss of tooth. Those are 3 or 4 risk factors. Heads up. Okay, I want to do something. We can maintain the tooth with a root canal and crown, but that's not a predictable option. Doesn't really fix it. But if for some reason the fracture was not too bad, in quotation marks, perhaps maintaining it makes sense to them. Just share with them that that option has what we've called a guarded or poor prognosis. Don't really like those words. A mad prognosis. What if this lasted only 18 months? Maybe say 12 months. What if you decided on this choice and then 12 months from now, if you're 12 months, we're doing something different? Will you be happy you got the 12 months out of it? Or will you be upset that you have to replace it? You, not me. It's your tooth, not my tooth. Then we have removal of the tooth, preserve the air with bone, extraction, bone grafting, followed by no treatment, RPD, bridge, or an implant. No treatment, RPD, bridge, or an implant. I have rather strong feelings about full prep bridges because I'm not sure why in 2020 it's acceptable to peel all the enamel off of 2 teeth to replace 1. To destroy the dent in 360 degrees, as John Coyce talks about, the cingulum of teeth is a strong part of it. So to me, full prep bridges present more problems than no treatment at all. But if someone wants a full prep bridge in our practice, we now have a prosthodontist in our office. Before, we had one down in another town, so we would refer that to the prosthodontist. Just because I don't do it with my own 2 hands doesn't mean it can't be on the menu. I don't retrieve root canals, but it's on the menu. So we review this with the patient, and then we go over the financial investment cost. One of my friends, Dr. Lincoln Harris from Australia, has great content on this. The cost to remove the tooth, preserve the air with bone, and then we also give them a preview of what they want to do next. If they're not sure, just remove the tooth, preserve the air with bone. If they think they want to replace it with an implant, we'll give them that whole treatment, financial treatment plan. We have a yellow financial form, which we use, which is a very simple way to discuss paying for treatment. Simple, but effective. Simple strategies for success. Let's say this cost of this treatment is $4,295. Our yellow form, that $90 exact fees, let's just use it for this, $4,295. You can pay for it in 3 ways. You can pay at the beginning of treatment and get a 5% payment in full courtesy. That will save you $214. Everyone likes a deal. That's a common option people like. They can also spread it out over the course of treatment in 3 credit card payments. Keep credit card on file, do all that stuff legally with the keeping people's information. Make sure you have an IT department and ask people about how that works, or we can use outside financing. Two of the sponsors of our group are Care Credit and Compassionate Finance, so you can use an outside financing company. Make it simple, give people options so that they feel like they're in control. My amazing consultant, Carol Kivler, early in my career, said people do not argue with their own decisions. It's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten. So if you came over to my house and Drew, the moderator, you said, I have a Kit Kat, you have to have a Kit Kat. She might say, I don't want a Kit Kat. You have a Kit Kat and M&Ms, and you say, Drew, I have 2 pieces of candy. Which one do you have? Which one do you want? Now you got her. She's got to pick one. So people don't argue with their own decisions, create reasonable options. What comes next? Then we plan to remove the tooth and preserve the bone. In our office, that may be done with our periodontist, a GP that focuses on extractions. It may be done with our prosthodontist. It could be done with a general dentist who's comfortable. I encourage you to take courses to learn extractions and bone grafting, tooth removal and bone preservation, because it's a great way to build your own implant sites. It's also a great way to do patient-centered production as an associate, because when you work for another dentist who might be older, they may have not do extractions anymore. Also, if you're going to buy a practice, this is a skill set you could add. So the tooth is removed, bone preserved, heals 12 to 16 weeks. During that time, we may take a 3D x-ray. We now have a 3D x-ray CBCT in our office. It's a great tool. Highly recommend you using it as a tool. There are other things you can use it for besides implant planning. Take impressions for a surgical guide. I like to do screw retain crowns, so I want to make sure that the implant, no matter who places it, is coming through the top part of the tooth, the occlusal part, through the central fossa is great, through the center, but through the top part, a guide helps with that. Patient has the implant placed, heals 12 to 16 weeks. Whether we do 1 stage or 2 stage has to do with the stability of the implant at the time of placement. Anytime you're insured, there's no problem with suturing over the implant, putting a cover screw on, and coming back to uncover the implant later. A healing abutment is like a little mini tooth, so you have to be cautious because people can chew on the healing abutment. After the implant integrates, we're going to take an impression to restore it. Everything that matters needs a system, and everything matters. So we take closed tray impressions. Closed tray impressions are easier to take than open tray impressions. There was a lot of arguing for years over which was more accurate. For the single tooth, I have found that closed tray impressions have been fantastic. My lab that I work with, my friend, sponsor of the group, if you'd like to know our Nacho Lab, just reach out to us at salsa@dentalnachos.com with Nacho Lab in the title, and we will be able to connect you with our lab. This is a lab that I've grown with over a decade. I used to do cement retain restorations. Now I do custom abutment screwmentation. What that is a custom abutment, CAD/CAM style, a zirconia crown with an access hole. It's cemented in the lab. It's returned to me as one piece. And I put that in the patient's mouth. All the cement is cleaned up by the lab. Advantages of a screw retain restoration of any kind is not having to clean out cement. Challenges is covering the screw access hole. But over the past 5 years, I've done precisely zero cement retain restorations. Prior to that, I did many, so they both could be good. My preference is for screw retain restorations. If you're listening to this live or on demand, and you text purple form to 215-543-6454, or email purple form to salsa@dentalnachos.com, we will send you our purple implant form, which has all the codes we utilize for a single tooth posterior implant. It functions as both a patient and practice guide. It has descriptions of each step, what happens most of the time. It's a great reference for you. So just text purple form to 215-543-6454 or email purple form to salsa@dentalnachos.com. So I take a closed tray impression with medium body PVS style, heavy body, medium body around the impression coping. In general, I prefer medium body instead of light body. My lab helped me with that. Light body has more wiggle room. One of our awesome sponsors, Keatonbach, has put together a buying group for Dental Nachos for you to save on impression materials. If you'd like to be part of the Keatonbach buying group, just put Nacho Keatonbach buying group or Nacho buying group and text to 215-543-6454 or salsa@dentalnachos.com. Keatonbach is an awesome sponsor of the group. I do not use alginate. Alginate is one of the things to me that represents everything I don't like about systems. Unpredictable. Someone does not pour it up. You have to take it over. Someone leaves it in the lab and it shrivels up like a grape. You have to call the patient back. If the model breaks on the way to the lab, you have to call the patient back. If it is not poured correctly, because most of our offices do not have those fancy pouring things that they have at labs, it's not as accurate. So I use Silginot, an alginate alternative made by Ketenbach. That has been a life-changing thing in our practice. We've used it for well over 5 years. And the dentists in our practices utilize that so it can be poured as many times as need be. The assistants don't have any pressure to run back to the lab to pour it up. And now might be a good time to tell you, we don't even have stone in our office. To me, I don't want to be doing lab work after hours, during hours, having my assistants back there. I like each person on the team and the lab person on the team to do what they do best. So I'm happy not to do any lab work. I often say I'm allergic to lab work. Even if you do pour up models in your office, taking a Silginot allows you to pour it more than one time. There's always pros and cons to everything. Sometimes the detail of Silginot is not as great as alginate, but for a custom tray, a counter model, a surgical guide, it has no impact on the outcome. If you need extra detail for any reason, sometimes I use a little medium body PVS. Bite registration off to the lab. Lab returns it in 4 weeks. Sometimes it could be sooner, sometimes it could be longer, but 4 weeks is our system. Patient comes in to insert their custom abutment screwmentation crown. I anesthetize the patient because our lab makes their own emergence profile. And you want the base of the implant crown to have a good emergence profile. So if it looks like a skinny stick, like a mushroom, tomato on a stick, that emergence profile is not as good as one that's rounded and looks how a crown would be. That is going to hurt the patient when you squish it into place. So I use local anesthesia and I anesthetize the patient. I use my BFF, best friend forever, the Isolite. Cyrus, another sponsor of the group. Want to know about how to get Nacho TLC and an Isolite? Just text Cyrus or Isolite to 215-543-6454. The Isolite is truly one of my best friends. It stops patients from swallowing something. Great. They can't talk when they have it in, so you can focus on your work. They can talk before or after. Holds their mouth open, frees up your assistant. It's wonderful. To me, all dentists deserve to use something like that. There's other things besides the Isolite that are like that. The Isolite is something that we've used. So I insert the screw-retained screwmentation custom abutment restoration. I then torque it to the manufacturer's recommendation. Let's say it's 30 Newton centimeters. I wait a few minutes, torque it again. Sometimes the screw, they say, will loosen a bit. I'm not sure if you actually need to do that, but that's part of our protocol. You then can use, I use sterilized endosponge. Some people use Teflon tape. And I put composite over top of that to cover up the access hole. Make sure the occlusion is not too high, a little less than the other teeth. You can take an x-ray, depending if you would like to or not. Most people are gonna say they wanna take an x-ray. To me, I've put in so many implant crowns that taking an x-ray, to me, that once the screw bottoms out and you know it's seated, do I need an x-ray at the end? I'm not gonna have any cement left over. So before I was doing cement retained restorations, an x-ray could show you if there's cement left over. But I'm gonna say many of the protocols for inserting any sort of screw retained restoration, even a single tooth implant crown, say to take an x-ray. I'm sharing with you, ABC, always be creative, always be changing. So they do not always take an insert x-ray when the contacts are good, the occlusion is good, I can feel the screw bottom out, and I don't need to check for cement. Always be evaluating and reevaluating your systems, because I've taken hundreds, maybe thousands of implant x-rays. What you will know is if it doesn't go down all the way, you have to put a lot of pressure on the screw, then you have to stop, maybe adjust the contacts, look at what's going on there. Now the patient has their new tooth. Hooray! We made them a new bionic tooth. Champion that. Say something good about it. I say, oh, it's cool, you have a tooth. Imagine we can do that. It is pretty cool that we can build a tooth from scratch in 2020. Maybe you're listening to this 10 years from now. It's cool that the patient didn't have a tooth at all. Now they have a tooth. Their root fractured. And now we've built them something from scratch. So that is the circle of implant dental life in our practice. To me, this has provided you with some great talking points along the way. It's not the only training you need, but in the length of a sitcom episode, I've talked you through this entire process. You can then combine this with some of our core material, supplemental material, and this is how we build what we do as dentists. This is how we build protocols. 3 P's to our office: people, protocols, profit. People, protocols, profit. My hope is that me describing this, that you could listen to, that you can check in between patients, is that you have something that talks about this process. There's going to be more to a single tooth implant than this, but this provides you with the foundation of what you need to think about to be able to deliver single tooth implant dentistry. When we get into placing and talking about that, it's also about picking cases that are not too difficult to start with. Start with easy, refer the rest. Do easy and medium, then refer the difficult. Maybe always do easy, perhaps do none, but explore. To me, placing implants should be like anything else that we do. Maybe you do some pedo and refer some. Do some endo and refer some. Do some extractions and refer some. But my encouragement is for you to JFO, just find out what you want to do. We've taught dentists who've been in practice for 30 years to start placing implants, and they love it. One said that is what got him through the pandemic, the production of the implants and also enjoying it. We teach dentists out of school. You want to build your foundation of skills and always be willing, always be exploring about how to help your patients, help your team, and help you. I always like to leave you with a way to get in touch with me, because if you've been listening to this, you may say, hey, I want to learn more. You can do that by visiting dentalnachos.com. You can email salsa@dentalnachos.com, or you can text me at 215-543-6454. Some of the things that you could text from this video: the purple implant form, the yellow financial form, the Nacho buying group, the Nacho Dental Lab. These are all key resources and sponsors of the group. And if you want to learn more about how to talk to patients, patient-friendly ways, text Convo to 215-543-6454. My name is Paul, Dr. Nacho Goodman, dentalnachos.com, doing what I love right now, speaking and sharing with dentists. AATI, always about the impact. Creating an impact to make all of our lives hopefully a little bit better. I've learned so much from my mentors. I learn from dentists like you every day on the Dental Nachos groups, and even in my own, personal life. Dentists that are on my text chains. Learn from each other, bond with each other, collaborate, always be collaborating. And this piece of content here, it was documented, not produced. But what did we learn in a sitcom episode? We learned how we can bring patients into our office, talk to them in patient-friendly terms, develop systems for planning, placing, restoring, maintaining, and profiting from dental implants. Create a foundation of knowledge so that we can help our patients chew and smile with confidence. Create a positive environment for our team and ourselves, and enjoy what we do as dentists